Hello everyone, this is Anthony Smith, conducting interviews with retired former SWCC operators. This is interview number 25, talking about operator syndrome. We're talking with retired SWCC Chief Chris Nelson on SWCC, TBI, and orthopedic injuries. And here's Chris.
Sure. My name is Christopher Nelson. I started in the Navy as a storekeeper, or an SK, which doesn't exist anymore. And shortly after, in my first 2 years, I joined the special boat team, became a SWCC operator for 20 years. I started out at the schoolhouse, obviously, as a trainee. And then my first assignment was Special Boat Team 12. I was there for about 8 years. I went to language school in Monterey and went to navsky, which was intended to be a shore duty at first, but it became a sea duty where I was deploying 180 days a year to countries all over the world, training fore and soft. And then I went to Special Boat Team 20, where I spent the remainder of my career until I retired. Deployed to every continent except Antarctica and Australia. Countries all over the world, in Asia, Africa, South America, even Mexico, training Mexican Marines, and Europe, and the Middle East. So pretty much everywhere you can go as a boat guy. Then I've been on 3 rib detachments early on in my career, and then I test piloted the CCM craft and did a short stint with the CCH, and then back to a rib dev, which became an MCADS and deployment in real world, MCADS drop. So I've had quite a variety of things I've done at boat teams. I've been all over the world and sustained quite a few injuries in the process.
Interview number 25 is a testimonial of Chris's medical records and conditions. He answered questions from the following questionnaire formats, and he gave permission to produce this presentation and share it openly. We covered the operator syndrome scale, the GAD-7 scale, the PLC-5 scale, the PHQ-9, the NSI neurobehavioral symptoms inventory, and a brief SWCC background questionnaire. Chris was in the Navy for 22 years. He spent 20 years as a SWCC operator. His final NEC was 53-52. He started out in class 41 and graduated SWCC school in 2001. He did 6 SWCC boat deployment cycles and a lot of different flyaways and overseas exercises. He served at SBT-12, navsky, and SBT-20. He worked on various boats, 11-meter ribs, Mark V, CCA, CCM, and he did the MCADS program. He has about 18,000 hours, probably more than that, on SWCC fast boats, and an estimated 2.2 million wave pounding or whiplash events related to MTBI. So Navy SWCC is a special class of elite naval warriors who have been a decisive force behind some of America's most important secret missions. Special boat operations have unique and often deadly challenges due to the combination of operating powerful, sophisticated machines designed for speed and stealth in some of the planet's most inhospitable environments. The average SWCC career operator experiences MTBI and major orthopedic injuries over the course of their career in peacetime and in war. And Naval Special Warfare conducts missions in over 70 countries, 365 days a year. The sum of SWCC injury does not accumulate until the operator retires. Throughout this presentation and all the presentations that I do on SWCC, traumatic brain injury, and long-term orthopedic injury, we will focus a lot on a term called operator syndrome. It's not a medical diagnosis, it's a framework that we use to describe a nexus of symptoms. It was termed and written up and published by Dr. Christopher Free. There's a DOI link there to it as well. We're talking about the nexus of operator syndrome as it pertains to special warfare boat operators. And I contacted Dr. Free, spoke with him on the phone, have gone back and forth with him on email and communicating with him. to better understand operator syndrome and what it is and how it pertains to the soft community, and continue to collaborate with Dr. Free in the future. All right, so operator syndrome is not something that we understand as a diagnosis, a medical diagnosis. What it is a qualitative descriptive framework involving a nexus of symptoms, and these symptoms are psychiatric illnesses and disorders along with chronic orthopedic injuries. Operator syndrome is an end state to a long career of high octane, high tempo, and high allostatic overload. Operator syndrome affects all soft forces across all major branches. And when you look at the list of different soft forces under SOCOM, you see Navy SWCC listed there. So this presentation is pertaining specifically to Navy SWCS, or Special Warfare Boat Operators, and the end-state operator syndrome and all this nexus of illness and injury. As we talk about operator syndrome symptoms, everything here in red are the things that Chris is dealing with at the moment. And this whole page covers all the different symptoms or things related to operator syndrome as this framework. Chris has TBI, endocrine dysfunction, sleep disturbance, sleep apnea, chronic joint pain, back pain, orthopedic problems. He has headaches, he has migraines, he has issues with substance abuse, he has depression, he has PTSD, anger issues, worry problems, stress related, marital, family, and community dysfunction, problems with sexual health and intimacy. Being on guard and hypervigilant is pretty severe. He has memory issues, concentration and cognitive impairments, vestibular and vision impairments. He had challenges transitioning from the military to civilian life, and other common issues among operators, including loss of grief, survivor's guilt. All right, covering comorbidities due to SWCC boat operations, mental and emotional issues for Chris Nelson. Chris was lucky in the fact that Spec War was sending guys to NICO while he was still on active duty, so he was treated and diagnosed at NICO for TBI, PTSD, anxiety, depression. He has ratings for all of these things with the VA. So he's one of the guys that was able to go through this program, active duty, and has ratings and healthcare and coverage. He has sleep apnea with a diagnosis. He has a CPAP machine, a VA rating. He has insomnia. That's all tied into all those other things I just mentioned. He has issues with irritability. He's easily annoyed. He has mental fatigue, dizziness, vision, hearing problems, trouble falling asleep and staying asleep, personality changes, concentration and focus issues, little pleasure in doing things, increased and decreased appetite. It kind of goes from one to the other. He has hearing difficulties. He has to wear hearing aids. Chris has headaches and migraines, which are severe and can be severe. He has severe hypervigilance, severe short-term memory loss, severe sensitivity to light and to noise, and a lot of degenerative joint issues. Other symptoms and injuries, orthopedically, Chris's spine, he has C-spine injury, pain, and he has a rating for that area. He has numbness in his extremities and his hands and his feet, all connected to the spine, nerve problems. He has chronic joint pain. His right fib, he had a fracture there during a parachute accident during his participation in the MCATS program. He also has had a right ankle surgery due to the same parachute accident. He has tears in both shoulders. He does have ratings for those as well. He has high blood pressure, high cholesterol, low testosterone, ED. He has apparent symptoms of allostatic overload. He has tinnitus. His brain MRI was normal. He has vision issues related to TBI and a lot of problems with his right eye and being able to focus. He gets panic attacks, sometimes associated with anxiety, which is also associated with TBI. And he has developed ADHD symptoms, but he hasn't been diagnosed at the moment. This slide pertains to issues and symptoms experienced due to high speed SWCC boat operations and wave pounding. Chris experienced full body slamming on SWCC fast boats, causing whiplash. He was knocked out from high G-force impacts on SWCC boats. He experienced extreme sleep deprivation due to SWCC operations. He experienced seeing stars and spots in his vision due to high G-force impacts, wave pounding on SWCC boats. He experienced mental fatigue due to high G-force impacts on SWCC boats. He experienced concentration and lack of focus due to high G-force impacts on SWCC boats. He experienced 4 to 10 foot seas at 50 knots during high G-force impact wave pounding on SWCC boats. He experienced orthopedic injuries due to fast boat operations. And thinking back to his current physical and emotional psychological conditions in mind, he did not have those issues as a young SWCC operator. He believes his conditions and issues are attributed to SWCC fast boat operations. Traumatic brain injury for SBC, retired Chris Nelson. The average SWCC logs about 3,000 hours of boat time per deployment cycle, according to a Roche's 1994 study. Research conducted underway on NSW fast boats for a period of 6 days, covering 36 hours, which totaled 8,610 wave impacts ranging from 2 to 25 Gs. Of the 8,610 wave impacts, 4,496 impacts ranged 5 to 20 or above 5 Gs. These impacts 5 G or greater in 36 hours equals about 124 significant impacts causing whiplash in an hour. So the average SWCC operator possibly endures 124 whiplash events in 1 hour on fast boats. The average SWCC operator possibly endures about 374,640 significant G-force impact events in one deployment cycle. So if you take that number and you multiply it by 6 in this case, per Chris, you have about 2,247,000 plus significant full body impacts while wave slamming on fast boats, which contribute to long-term effects of chronic orthopedic injury, whiplash, and TBI, among other issues. Okay, so as we start to summarize this whole presentation, we're looking at some of the symptoms for Chris Nelson. Etymologically speaking, Chris is a 51-year-old retired SWCC operator. This is right now July 2023. He has 20 years of SWCC boat service, 6+ SWCC deployments, accumulating 18,000 hours or more of SWCC boat time, causing at least 2.2 million significant full body impacts while wave pounding on SWCC boats. Chris has over 22 symptoms of MTBI, post-concussion symptoms, and a nexus of operator syndrome symptoms. He endured full body slamming and whiplash from wave pounding at significant G-force exposure, contributing to his diagnosis of TBI at NICO, which is service connected. He also has PTSD, insomnia, and sleep apnea with ratings, all diagnosed at NICO. He has obvious allostatic overload and other mental issues. He has various joint and spine issues, broken leg and tears in a broken leg during his a parachute accident, along with some problems with his ankle, and then he has tears in his shoulders, which he has ratings for those as well. Chris has been to NICO, their TBI clinic, while he was on active duty, and he was diagnosed with numerous post-concussion symptoms which impede his quality of life. Long-term effects of MTBI major orthopedic injuries are debilitating for SWCC operators like Chris, and Chris does have a 100% disability rating from the VA. According to Chris, when he was a young SWCC operator, first getting on SWCC boats, he did not have any significant mental, physical, or emotional impairments compared to now, 51 years old, post-trauma from the fast boats, and now he has all these issues. Chris was fortunate. He did go to NICO while on active duty. This program was stood up, and NSW does send guys to be rated now and to be diagnosed and everything else. So he is very fortunate that he was able to do that while on active duty. And for the record, Chris never played any contact sports. Continue with conclusions from this ongoing SWCC TBI research project. To date, there have been 25 interviews or record reviews with former SWCC operators, and I conducted an online SWCC TBI and orthopedic injury survey, which had 314 participants. So 25 interviews, 314 participants in a survey. So far, with all the data that's been collected, 100% of the 300 plus SWCC operators interviewed or surveyed have significant TBI exposure, contributing to a nexus of post-concussion symptoms. In the online survey, 2 SEALs responded along with 12 NSW support personnel or CVs that were attached to boat teams, and they also reported TBI and orthopedic injuries related to NSW fast boat service. There right now are probably hundreds, if not thousands, of SEALs with the same issues related to fast boat service back from the dam neck days when the SEALs were doing fast boats before SWCC took over at dam neck. 100% of SWCC operators interviewed or surveyed experienced full body high Z-force weight pounding, which contributes to whiplash, repetitive MTBI, and orthopedic injury from SWCC boat operations, and it's proven to cause mental, emotional, and physical injury. You can see the reference there. In the survey conducted online, 82% had orthopedic injuries from SWCC fast boat service, 90% had spinal injuries, and 27 are suicidal, which is a significant number. SWCC operators interviewed or surveyed thus far who were never diagnosed with TBI before TBI protocols were implemented also like VA ratings for service-connected injuries due to SWCC fast boat service, which is a problem that we have to rectify. And SWCC TBI protocols were implemented in NSW now, and modern SWCC operators attend NICO and other clinics while on active duty, and they get ratings for TBI, PTSD, and other issues related. Finally, information in this presentation provides evidence Chris was a SWCC operator on SWCC fast boats for multiple deployments, and the aggregate of data collected in these interviews and the online SWCC survey connect long-term TBI, post-concussion syndrome, and orthopedic injury to SWCC boat service. Most importantly, thousands of former and retired SWCC operators suffer from long-term MTBI and major orthopedic injury without acknowledgement or help from the VA or DoD. There is a gap in TBI research on the retired SWCC operator peer group, as members of this group suffer severe long-term issues of TBI and major orthopedic injuries. I do have references on my YouTube page for different things, so if you want to look things up, you're more than welcome to, and thank you very much for your time. Have a good day.